Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome back to Fat Cat Collections. Today I got another fragrance review. This is by a company that goes by the name of Sucreabeille. Now, Sucreabeille is a kind of a what I would consider a small indie slash niche house, and they make some extremely what I would consider, and I may be incorrect in using this terminology, but a lot of gourmand kind of fragrances, you know, and generally my understanding of gourmand, and again, I'm kind of a novice fragrance reviewer, although I have, you know, many different fragrances in the collection. I've sampled so many different fragrances over the years. There's a lot of good ones, and there's a lot of ones that I personally don't like. That's the thing about fragrance reviewing, is that, you know, sometimes fragrances, they change, you know what I mean? And that's why we have an opening, that's why we have a dry down, and then ultimately kind of what you're left with, in my opinion. So a lot of times we have fragrances at the initial blast, you're going to have, you know, a strong kind of scent of alcohol, or you're going to have, you know, some off-putting notes. And sometimes, you know, I've had fragrances I've worn over the years that I bought, absolutely, you know, first spray, couldn't stand them, and then I come back to them, you know, years later, and I say, you know, hey, maybe, you know, maybe my tastes have changed a little bit. Maybe I just, you know, maybe it was something going on with my nose that day. Who knows? But the thing about fragrances is that it is very subjective. So what I want to share with you guys today is one I picked up called Blood Drop, and the reason I picked this up is because if you're not familiar with like imaginary authors, they have one called Bull's Blood. I don't know, there's something kind of eerie and dark about, you know, anything labeled blood, right? And I was just curious to see what this is going to smell like. So I'm going to give you guys kind of like my impression of what I get. And kind of some of the other fragrances I've smelled by Sucreabeille, they're a very, very, I'd say, daring house. They have a lot of fragrances that, you know, that I personally, you know, it's going to be up to really the person who, I guess, really appreciates some of this stuff. But all I can talk about is the one we're going to share today. Again, it's called Blood Drop. And what do I get with this? Let me just refresh myself with the scent. Okay. So this, believe it or not, kind of reminds me a little bit of like something you might smell on Halloween. There's a real sweetness to it. Now this is something I just can't wear. I don't like the way that this smells at all. It smells extremely, I don't really get the blood vibe, but I do get kind of a strange kind of Halloween kind of vibe to it. It probably because to me, it almost smells like you're baking something in the kitchen. I don't necessarily mean something that like a cookie, but there is a real sweetness. To me, this is very cloying, and I don't personally like this fragrance. As far as the notes in this, and I'm not going to read you the whole spiel. I encourage you to click the link in the description and check it out for yourself. I do really appreciate the labels from this company. They always have kind of cool labels. They are available in small kind of vial size portions like this, or you can get them in more of the sprays. I always prefer a spray. I just feel like it just atomizes better for you to, I don't know, be able to give it, you know, I don't know if that's true or not, but I just prefer having a spray. Some of these you dab on, you know, ultimately you still get the scent, but I just feel like a spray kind of spreads it out a lot easier than just kind of applying it to your pulse points. Let me talk about the notes though on this, so you can get an idea of what you're going to smell like with this. So a lot of these scents that they make are very, I'd say they're very basic. You know, you don't have tons of notes. We have about 5 notes, I think, in this one. So we have cozy, warm blankets, cloves, butter cookies, and blood accord. So, you know, and that's the funny thing about fragrances. Sometimes when we come back to them, yeah, I guess that's where my original impression kind of came from when it comes to the whole baking cookies thing. I guess I was kind of leaning more towards like a chocolate chip or chocolate. I guess that's probably because those are the only cookies that were ever really baked in my house growing up were chocolate chip and peanut butter blossoms. So, yeah, this definitely, like I said, has a real sweetness to it. And it says, blood, of course, blood accord. I don't really get like, when I think of blood, I kind of think of like metallic notes, you know what I mean? And I'm just not getting where they get the blood accord from. I think sometimes some of these fragrance companies, they do stuff like this with a theme, and they make, I guess, they make like sort of imaginary notes. And I know like imaginary authors, they do an imaginary note to kind of tie the fragrance in with their theme. With this, I would have called this, you know, Halloween baking or something like that. I just don't get the blood drop at all. It doesn't really make any sense. And it's just not one, this is just way too sweet and cloying for me. Yeah, definitely not one I would even, honestly, even wear. Just sampling it enough on like a test strip, by blotting it on a test strip, or putting it on my finger. I mean, I have tried this on a couple of my pulse points, and I just find it way too sweet for my liking. Now, I do want you guys to go to, to their website and read about this fragrance. Again, links in the description, because each fragrance they make, they give you a story and a theme. And although that's really great, to tie like a little story in with your fragrance. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what do you want to smell like? Do you want to smell good or not? And personally, I don't like this at all. I don't think this is a very good fragrance. I don't think that anybody's, I'm sure that they do sell these, and I'm sure there's some people who will like this, but, and that's the thing about fragrances. It's all very subjective. I do feel like a lot of their stories, a lot of their fragrances are kind of like, they have several different kind of blood-titled fragrances. The best we can describe this house is, if you've ever been to a Hot Topic, that's kind of the vibe I get when thinking of this house, like a Hot Topic kind of vibe. Like I said, I smelled worse, of course, but I definitely don't think it's something that I would wear, and I think that unless you like really sweet gourmand fragrances that do remind you of, I don't know if I necessarily want to smell like a kitchen, I mean, I've worked in kitchens over the years. I don't necessarily want to smell like a bakery or whatnot. But that's, again, totally up to you guys. Do check it out. I want to, like I said, share these fragrances with you guys. I've had a couple of these for quite some time. And I do think this is a house worth checking out just because they have so many unique fragrances. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. I don't know how many they have, but it's amazing. And they have very small 1 ml vials. They have drams, and I believe this is the dram size, if I remember correctly. 10 milliliter roller balls, and of course the sprays. Like I said, it looks like they have right now 242 different fragrances in stock and 25 out of stock. So we're looking at, what is that, like 270 something fragrances in their lineup. So that's a lot. So pretty hard to, come up with 270 amazing fragrances that everybody's going to like. But again, that's the thing about perfumery. Everybody's going to have brands that they enjoy and dislike. And, like I said, sometimes, I come back to fragrances and decide later that, hey, you know what, this is actually, my tastes have changed a little. This is nice. So definitely check it out. Let me know if I can help you guys in any way. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch the video. As always, have a wonderful day and take care.